Everyone, welcome to the final 2021 East Whiteland Township Board of Supervisors meeting. It certainly has been a robust year with activity. Tonight, I'm Scott Lambert, and tonight I'm joined with Rich Orlow, Sue Drummond, John Nagel, and staff. So would like to call to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight is kind of a special night. It is the culmination of 72 supervisor board meetings, 100 plus executive sessions, and countless number of subcommittee meetings for Sue Drummond, who will be leaving for the board after her 6-year term. In her tenure on the board, Sue has held the position as vice chair, board chair, and liaison to a number of subcommittees, including the EAC, historical, traffic, planning and development subcommittees, and I'm sure I probably missed a few over that period of time. We will be holding a luncheon next week where we will honor her accomplishments here in the township in more detail, but tonight, if there are any brief comments as a send-off, please raise your hand, and I would like to just start with a couple comments. I'll point out 2 projects that Sue has championed during my tenure that stand out to me. One, her involvement and passion with the ongoing acquisition with the Spring Ridge and Boulderson tracks, working with the land concepts to develop concept plans for our municipal campus master plan. And I have to give her kudos, her knowledge of our always complicated land development ordinances that Zach always makes very difficult for us. So, Rich, is there anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, in one area specifically, I relied on Sue extensively. Any letter or communication that goes out from the board, Sue was exceptionally careful in reading and editing, and thank God for that. Okay, I would consider her, I would appoint her editor-in-chief of the township.
Is there anyone else that has a few comments? Chris Yeager?
Yeah, I worked with Sue almost my entire career as a deputy chief or chief, and some as a lieutenant as well. So I had a lot of interaction with her. And I just want to say thank you, Sue, because you were a very welcome asset, easy to speak to, and very level-headed. And like he said, the editing, you actually helped me edit some documents during the time, which turned out well. But as far as the police department and the entire township, I think you've been a great asset, and you're going to be sorely missed. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Scott, my mic cooperates, so I got to hit the right button. I want to thank Sue for her governance and her leadership, along with the other board members, Scott and Rich. On behalf of the employees, I think the challenge is always to put the right people in the right seats on the bus, and that's a big thing where I come from. And so we've worked very, very hard to build a strong organization here that's performance oriented and kind of the opposite model of what government is professed to be, at least maybe out at the community at large. So on behalf of myself and the employees, I want to thank you for your governance and your leadership over the time you've been on the board, and we wish you the best in your new role.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And also in honor of, I'm sorry, Kathleen. Come on up and speak into the mic.
I'm a community member, lived in the General Warren neighborhood for 37 years now. But I just want to say thank you for your service. I know it's not an easy job for you guys, but I just want to acknowledge, thank you so much for supporting and advocating for my hometown. Thank you.
Hello, Chuck Peterson, Great Valley School District. Long before my tenure at the district, Sue had a great idea that the school district could benefit from quarterly meetings with all the municipalities. And she's been a valuable contributor. I've learned a lot from her. It's been very valuable to the school district in terms of us monitoring development and our student enrollment, and just a great collaboration and being able to put names with faces. So it's been a pleasure to work with Sue, and we've benefited from that, and I want to thank her. Congratulations.
I'm smiling under the mask.
Okay. And in honor of Sue's retirement, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Sue Drummond as Chair Pro Tem for this evening.
Do I get a second? Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Turn it over to you.
Oh, I get the hammer too.
All right, we're adjourned. All right.
Adjourned. Great, okay. Well, fortunately, it's not a particularly lengthy agenda tonight, though we do have the school district here. Let me just get started. Board briefings. We actually didn't have an executive session tonight because we found out we really didn't have anything urgent to talk about, so scratch that. But we do have some information on the 2020 census results. Who's going to talk about that?
I'm here to present.
Where?
Somewhere on Zoom, possibly.
There she is. Okay.
Okay.
That's Brittany.
Good, you can see and hear me. Okay. So not too much, but just an update of where we're at and then what happened over the course of the past year. I think everyone's aware that the pandemic kind of changed things. Changed things for the census in particular. It was the first year that they allowed households to respond online. They also changed a lot of deadlines. So everyone's pretty much aware that Census Day is usually April 1st. That was pushed back a number of times throughout last year. They ended up going with a final deadline of October 15th. So because deadlines were extended and we didn't have all of our responses in until October 15th of last year, now the actual data that's been collected is rolling out on a timeline basis. So we've gotten most of the data that's been collected. I have read that they will be finishing complete calculations by June of 2022. So we will still see information coming in up until the new year, possibly till May or June. But things that we do know, we are one of the fastest growing suburbs within the region. We also have grown more than 30%. East Whiteland Township, our population has grown 3,267 people within the past 10 years for a total population count as of the 2020 census of 13,917. Our median age is right about 35 and a half. And then we've seen our 18 and under population growth grow by 634, but I do want to mention that that percentage, that total overall percentage, has actually decreased about 1%. So we've gained, but the percentage overall in total has gone down about a percentage. And then if anybody has any questions, or if any residents have questions about how the census was calculated and how things had worked over the past year, you can ask me or reach out or send an email, and I can either answer your questions or I can reach out to our partner coordinator.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Brittany? Whoa, she's fading away.
Trains left the station.
Oh. That's interesting. Okay. Well, seeing no questions, thank you, Brittany, if you can still hear me.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. All right, next, this is an announcement that the second, we said we would have 2 meetings about the Bishop Tube response to the remedial plan, and have we definitively established that for January 20th, Steve?
I'm looking across the way to Dawn, and she's nodding her head yes. But yes, we have the supervisors, we have BSTI, Steve Hahn, and a court reporter, and importantly, our tech folks, AVT. So yes, we're going to do it on the 22nd.
20th?
Oh, I'm sorry, the 20th. Yeah, I'm looking at 2022.
Yeah.
It's going to be January 20th next year, 2022. And it will be in the evening. It will be at 7 p.m.
And it'll be here?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. All right. Next up, this is good news, and I did see it in the paper, that we in Charlestown were awarded almost $700,000 from the Department of I'm not going to read that, the DCED Multimodal Transportation Fund. And this is to make intersection improvements at the intersection of Phoenixville Pike and Yellow Springs Road and Sidley. They all come together there, which is a project we've been trying to do for quite a while, and we will get it done. But now we've got even more money to work on it. Anybody going to talk any more about that? Questions?
That's a question. How does that interact with the developer commitment and responsibility?
So the simple answer is the developer is still on the hook to do the improvements. The scope of this grant project and what they agreed to do is somewhat different. This project would include a right turn lane off of northbound Sidley onto Phoenixville. It's also a slightly different geometry of the intersection. So it's actually a better project if we do it ourselves, but there is always the option to have the developer do it. I think my suggestion and suggestion of McMahon Associates, without a little more analysis of the two, would be to proceed with the grant application, because it's a better project and certainly much appreciated support from the state.
Because Zach, one of the things that I guess we could be concerned about is that if something were to change with the developer and the economic development and financial resources of them going away, that would end up losing the grant and losing their money as well, correct?
It's a good point. That's kind of the reason we're actually in a pretty unusual position. We can get the project funded through 209 funds. We can get a grant, which we got, or we can get a developer to do it. We're kind of spoiled for choice in this case.
We're rolling in the dough right now, huh?
Yeah, in this case, I think you're right. We're better off proceeding because you never know what the future holds.
Might as well get started on it.
Bird in hand. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the school district, I know you've been really wanting this change made, so we've had your support. Thank you for that. I think it's a great example of the townships working together, because that intersection is right on the border between us and Charlestown. And we also had support from our state rep, Christine Howard, in getting this approved. So good job all the way around. All right. Next, the Moms Club donation for Backton Hill Park. Somebody talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we thought it was important to recognize and thank the Moms Club of Malvern for their generous donation, just shy of $4,000. $3,924.74 through fundraising efforts that they made mostly last year during the early days of the pandemic, when fundraising was not an easy task. So they held a number of events, and I give them a lot of credit for raising those funds. Two of the members of the club, Aaron Tedesco and Nicola Van Steenland, presented a check to Scott a couple Fridays ago. And again, we thought it was important to thank and recognize them for their contributions towards the park.
That's great. It's going to be a nice park when it's finally done. It'll be good, very good. So thanks to the Moms Club. All right. Next up, taking action on the 2022 final budget. Everybody looked through it. John, you want to go over anything?
We presented a pretty short PowerPoint about a month ago, and so I'd like if we could fire that up on the smart TV. I'm not going to go through all the slides. The budget is almost identical to the budget that was presented in November. And then if you get to the second slide, I think that's the most important one. These are the legal requirements. All of our meetings were advertised and open to the public. We began the budget workshops and had them in October, 2 different sessions. And November 10th, at our November board meeting, the board gave preliminary approval to this budget, and tonight we're doing the final approval. In between, the budget has been on display electronically and in person, so there's an opportunity for folks to comment on that this evening. That's the law. So just a real quick snapshot. Zach, if you could move on to the next one. This gives you an idea of what our total revenues are for the general fund, a little bit under $15 million. If you go on the expense side, we're running a small surplus. You could show the expense side there. There's a pie chart, but move on to the other. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. So it's slightly under the revenue number. So it is a balanced budget with a very modest surplus. And so the department heads have done a great job of holding the line on expenses, especially during the pandemic. There are certain things that are causing increases in the budget, and a lot of them have to do with the fact that we have 3 unions here: police, fire, and AFSCME. So a lot of those expenses are contractual, and we actively negotiate those contracts from year to year. So Zach, just keep rolling through this. I don't know if there's anything else new that I wanted to mention. This is, as I said, pretty much the budget from November, but we're required to present it in both November and December. So just want you go through the rest of this. Just shows, it's really a summary. And then I think on the last slide, these are our reserves. We've been able to grow our reserves in a few years. And so we're prepared for things like the pandemic. We actually had reduced our budgets on the revenue side in the previous year by 10% for the earned income tax. That did not happen, thankfully, and so we're in a better position than we had anticipated being. And that continued through the end of this year. So we're hoping that the economy improves and we get to see some new development here that will help spur on revenue and transfer taxes. So this is just a snapshot of the workforce, pretty much the same as it was the year before. And anything else on there, Zach? And then just open it up for any questions or comments from the board.
Any questions from the board?
None. No, it looks good.
Any questions from the public? Anybody online? Okay. Well, I think it's a good budget. We were very conservative last year. Fortunately, it wasn't as bad a year as we had perhaps worried about. So I'll accept a motion to approve the final budget.
I'll make a motion to approve the final budget for 2022.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we've got a budget.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The next one is also short. We need to approve 2022 tax rates, resolution number 41, which leaves taxes unchanged at .445 mils on the property tax and 0.75% on earned income tax, just like it was the last couple of years. Do I have a motion on that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess I should ask. Any questions? No. Okay.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 41, leaving the tax levy for 2022 unchanged from 2021.
Have a second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we've got taxes. All right. This is just a notice, as required by state law, the East Whiteland reorganization meeting, which will install all officers and everybody. It's an organization meeting. Will be January 3rd at 5 p.m. in this room. It's usually about a 20-minute meeting. So can I have a motion to advertise that?
Sure, I'll make a motion to advertise for the 2022 reorganization meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second, but I have a question. There's another township I deal with in my other life that they have January 3rd as a closed because of New Year's on the prior Saturday. That's not us, is it? We don't have the same. Okay, so we're
No,
open.
we're on.
Check that, right?
Okay. Okay, all right, good.
It's
Good
a
to go.
Monday. It's supposed
I
to be the
know.
first Monday of the month.
Yeah, I know. Well, if you knew this other township, you'd understand.
Okay,
I
in
won't
this
mention it.
township,
It's
we're
not-
doing it according to the rules,
Exactly.
okay?
Okay, all right.
We're the better township.
It's much better township, all right. Okay, so,
Those are fighting words, John.
Very common in the business, yes.
okay. So did we have to vote on that? All in favor, aye?
Aye, yeah.
Aye.
Good.
Thank you. Okay. Now, motion to award, and we have sold some things on Municipid. Where's John? These are already sold, correct?
Well, the bids, we had the opening of the bid, through municipal bid was Friday,
Okay,
12/3. So these are the prices that came in at. We just
Okay.
need your approval to go ahead and sell them.
okay. So we got a dump truck for $25,600, a mower for $3,200, a fresh air blower for $26, a Tampa rammer, whatever that is, for $130, a portable arrow board. Okay, I'm not going through all this. Manual transfer pump for $10, pipe laser for $161.99, a chain fall for $62, backhoe tire chains for $175, and truck tire chains for $265. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, well, okay. I'll make a motion to accept the sale of items on Municipid under item 5A.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. And we have one, accept the sale of a 2014 Ford Escape for $6,800. Is that you, John?
No, actually, I can, yeah, it is. I can speak to that. It's kind of a team effort. This is the former vehicle that Steve Brown drove, and with the way that used cars are going these days, we got a really nice price for this Ford Escape.
Okay, all right. Motion on that?
Sure. Motion to accept the sale of the bid for $6,800 for the 2014 Ford Escape.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. How many miles on that? Lots?
Lot.
Okay.
And a lot of rust.
A lot of rust. What a deal. Okay. It's Steve's fault. Nah, I don't think so. Okay. All right, we're going to go into a public hearing on a small ordinance amendment. Is that Steve?
Yep, that's me. All right, so I'd like to close the open meeting and then open the hearing on the proposed ordinance, which amends the East Whiteland Township Code, Chapter 154, Article 10, Section 154-106, subsection B, subsection 16. So I'd like to introduce into the record the following exhibits. Board Exhibit 1 is the ordinance itself. Board Exhibit 2 is the legal notice for tonight's hearing on this proposed amendment or proposed ordinance. Board Exhibit 3 is the proof of publication of that legal notice in the daily local newspaper on November 22nd, 2021. Board Exhibit 4 is the November 15th, 2021 submission of the ordinance and receipt by the Chester County Law Library. So this ordinance is just a technical change to the township code in the sewer section. So on the sewer charge EDU table, under the section regarding businesses which provide showers to employees, the number for required EDUs for each additional 7 employees was blank. So that was just a technical drafting error, and this corrects it to add 1 for the EDU.
Wow, okay.
Big change.
Big change. Any questions on that? Any comments?
Anyone online?
How do we enforce it?
I think
Never mind.
Don't cause
there's a
trouble.
lot of self-compliance
Never
here. And this is part of the preparation for the sale to Aqua.
Okay.
So
Okay.
does the board have any questions? Are you guys all good? All right. No. All right. So with that, we'll conclude the hearing and go back into the public meeting. So this ordinance can now be voted on by the board.
Okay. Any questions from the public? I'm sure they're dying to know about this. Okay. Can I get a motion on this?
Sure, I'll make a motion for the changes specifically for section 154-106B16 regarding business which provide employee showers.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Whew. Glad we got that solved. All right. Now we're into more interesting stuff. All right. Talk about the school district. Zach, do you want to talk about this, or is the presentation, or what?
Yeah, I think the school district, a handful of officials and their project team are here, so I think I'll hand it over to them. Happy to answer any questions along the way. So, Chris Jensen from T&M Associates.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us here tonight to present. We're happy to be here. I'm Chris Jensen with T&M Associates. I'm the civil engineer for the project. Okay, great. Okay. I'm Chris Jensen with T&M Associates. I'm the civil engineer for the project, and with me here tonight is our project architect, Danielle Hoffer, and our project traffic engineer, Guy DiMartino, as well as 3 members of the school district, Chuck Peterson, who spoke earlier, Dr. Dan Goffredo, and Ken Morris are here tonight also. Just to give a brief history and refresh on where we are and how we got to be here tonight, we submitted a preliminary land development application in July of this year after having multiple meetings with staff and consultants in the township to go over the project and ideas that we had for the project. There was an initial planning commission meeting in August, as well as 2 or 3 historical commission meetings, upon which in August we received the historical commission's approval. The reason for that approval is that the current district administration building, a portion of it is a historic 1930s works progress administration building. And so the project required that we go before the Historic Commission. We were before you in September also to introduce the project. And subsequent to that, we submitted two more times to the township for 2 rounds of reviews by your staff and consultants. That culminated in a meeting last Monday evening with your planning commission, upon which they recommended a preliminary plan approval. So that's where we are in the history of the land development application. I thought I could also just give a very brief project overview, since it has been a little while since we've been here. So what you see on the screen is the proposed project. As I mentioned, the project, and as I'm sure most of you are aware already, the existing conditions of the site include the existing K.D. Markley Elementary School, the darker gray building that Zach is hovering around. There is also the existing district administration building, which on the screen is represented by the white rectangle. There are two later additions to that historical portion that are planned to be demolished as part of this project. The proposed building is a new 5th, 6th grade center. That's the white building, and it's 2 stories high, about 172,000 square feet. Meant to alleviate congestion in the elementary schools and middle school at the 5th, 6th grade level. And some other key features of the project are that currently there's only one access point off of Sweetsford Road, and what that does is intermingle bus and parent traffic, which is not best practice for schools. So we have proposed a separate new access point on Sweetsford for the buses, and that's at the very top of the screen. And in addition to that, you'll see where it says new and additional parking. There is a new parking lot proposed, and that's to accommodate for the additional parking needs, as you would suspect, for the 2 facilities. And from a stormwater perspective, currently at the far left of your screen, the darker shape you see there is the existing stormwater basin that currently serves to control all of the stormwater from the school site. As part of this project, we're actually proposing 3 additional basins. There's 2 immediately up gradient of that existing basin. They function for not only rate control and volume control, but also water quality. And there's 1 additional basin at the very top of the screen that will help to mitigate what we call the bypass runoff that's coming from off-site that wraps around the site that we collect via berms and swales. So overall, there's a significant improvement to the stormwater control from these sites following this job. I didn't mention also what you see is the proposed multi-use trail that is currently shown aligned at the top, which is the east side of the screen, and then it runs along Sweetsford Road, then north again to its culmination at the existing Chester Valley Trail as part of this project. Road improvements in general include a focus on the access or the frontages for the school, some widening along Sweetsford Road, an extension of the school zone, some work at the intersection immediately to the east to help improve sight distance there at Mill Lane and Sweetsford Road. And finally, there is a new signal that's proposed at the Church Sweetsford intersection, along with some again, miscellaneous widening along Church. So that, in summary, is the proposed road improvements that have been that have come from the traffic impact study prepared by TPD, submitted to the township and to PennDOT. As I mentioned, we received preliminary recommendation from the Planning Commission last week, and that was based on review letters that we have from your consultants, and I'd be happy to go through those letters, or if there are any questions specific to those letters or questions in general, be happy to do so now. And if not, there are some waivers as well that that are part of the project.
Hi, so on the traffic, how many new trips per day are expected?
For that, I will defer to Guy, who is here, our traffic engineer, if you'd like to talk about the traffic elements.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. Guy DiMartino with Traffic Planning and Design. Sorry, you asked number of trips?
Yeah, new trips.
Yeah, so in the morning, the proposed school would generate 603 trips during the AM peak hour, and during the afternoon school peak hour, 306.
New trips?
New trips,
In a day, okay.
yes.
All right.
And one thing to note too is this school will operate with independent bell times, independent of the existing Katie Markley School.
Right.
So they'll be separated by roughly an hour. So there won't be simultaneous bell times occurring on site between two schools.
What is the expected design of the traffic signal intersection? Is it just one lane in each direction? Do you need to add lanes for some reason?
But we're proposing to keep the existing geometry of the intersection. So a single lane approach as it exists today.
Okay.
That would be a
means-
very difficult intersection to widen with that
Yeah,
old
that's
house right
why I
there.
asked,
Yeah,
exactly, right.
yeah.
I mean, you really need the traffic signal, you think? I mean, most people stop at that intersection because the visibility is not great coming from either direction. Everybody's pretty careful, but if it meets the warrants.
Yeah, it meets the warrants. It's actually something that was identified in the township's capital improvement plan for something that would be needed in the future. So it's consistent with the township's plan vision for that intersection.
Okay. Okay.
I have kind of a dumb question. How can you have 600 trips in the morning and 300 trips in the afternoon? What are you doing with the other 300 kids?
No, it's based on industry standard data collected nationwide at just the operations of school. A lot of times, the morning tends to coincide with when parents are commuting to work, so they could have better ability to drop off their kids. So a parent dropping off their kids is two
Okay.
trips.
So they take the bus
And then
home,
they
the
take the
mom
bus
drops them
home,
off
yeah.
and they take the bus home. Okay. It just struck me as odd, okay?
I have a question, just looking at the map. On the western side on Church Road, will buses be actually leaving the parking lot and exiting left or right, north or south on Church Road?
So for the existing school, the existing Katie Markley School will utilize all buses for the Katie Markley School will utilize the existing or the proposed access where the cursor is being pointed to off of Sweetsford Road. The proposed school buses will utilize the Church Road driveways only. They would enter on where the cursor is being pointed to, the bottom right of the plan, and then all buses would exit what is the northernmost access to Church.
Any questions, guys, on the review letters or any waivers or anything?
Now, the trail, it's a spur from school property down the Chester Valley Trail, but that maintenance plowing will be on the responsibility of the school. Right, school district, right? I mean, the township will have nothing to do with the maintenance, or I doubt the county, but it's the school district that will be responsible to maintain that?
The plan itself is on the township's comprehensive plan, and that's the reason for it being part of this project, despite the concerns of the district about its proximity to Katie Markley and the fact that students will be near to that trail in the recreation areas. So that certainly the construction of the trail, as shown on the land development plan, is planned to be undertaken by the district. I think it's yet to be determined, in maintenance and I guess the land development agreement, once that is finalized would address that
Okay.
element of.
So at the moment, that's an open issue.
I think so, yes.
All right.
The waivers you're asking for, one was the 300 feet assessment, right?
Yes.
And what were the other two?
There is a waiver for, and this is, I'm reading this from a waiver request letter that we had submitted. In addition to that 300-foot boundary waiver, we also asked for a waiver, a partial waiver actually, as we had read the ordinance that it required sidewalks on both sides of the road, and we had suggested it be just on the frontage of the school's property. And in addition, in that same section of the ordinance, your traffic consultant had mentioned in his review letter that a waiver may need to be required for providing sidewalk from Church Road to the building, the main primary building access point. We're including that as a waiver request because there will be access from Swedesford Road to the building entrances, and the elevation of Church Road as it relates to the floor elevation of the historic building precludes the ability to build a sidewalk that would be ADA accessible in a feasible manner. It's not a primary entrance in terms of the building anyway. That Church Road access frontage is for bus entry, for bus drop-off. So we think that's a reasonable waiver. There is another waiver that we put on here, more of technicality, in that we are proposing, as I mentioned, a portion of the multi-use trail act as a sidewalk along Swedesford. And the thought being, and this was a discussion during the Planning Commission meeting, that portion of the trail be asphalt, just to signify that it is the trail. And because of that, the ordinance does say that your sidewalk should be concrete, so we're asking that that waiver be granted. And then there was quite a bit of discussion about trees at the Planning Commission meeting as well. We're providing a significant number of additional trees on the site. In total, it's 228 new trees that are being planted. We are removing 100 trees, so the net increase is 128 trees to the site. And as you can imagine, because we're adding the new building, the new parking lot, and other facilities related to the two buildings that will be on the site, there's limited space available for trees and for clear areas for playing. And there's also a concern about sight lines from both Church Road and Swedesford Road as it relates to safety, security, and for Church Road specifically, maintaining that historic view from the road as you drive by for the preservation of that building. That is a lot of effort has gone into. So just to make note, the Planning Commission did defer on their recommendation regarding the waivers because of that reason, and until what they decided, and correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, is to defer a decision on a recommendation of the waivers because of the request that we meet with the Land Concepts, the landscape consultant, and determine if there might be a better way to add some more trees, and if not, talk about the prospects of other mechanisms to comply or be granted that partial waiver to a lesser degree. So that was something that we talked about quite a bit, and we're trying to set up a meeting with Land Concepts on that. So that was actually two waiver requests. One of them was for street trees, and which we're providing quite a few new street trees, and the other was for the number of replacement trees. So again, we're including 128 new trees as part of the project, but the waiver would be for those additional trees that are part of the subdivision and land development ordinance.
Yeah, it surprises me that if it's not a heavily treed lot, and if you're putting in 100, I don't know why you'd need to put in 200, but I guess that's the way the rules go, right, Scott?
Just call me Scott.
I'm sorry, Zach.
You did that at my first meeting.
It's looking
and
the
you're
wrong
doing it
way.
again at
I
your
know,
last meeting.
I'm sorry.
It's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
I forgive
Zach.
you. I've been called worse, believe me.
Scott, you got very young,
Yeah.
very fast.
You looking good, Zach. The code, there are various code requirements that some of them overlap, some of them are separate. The one thing I will say, just in terms of, to add to what Chris said, the planning commission seemed more supportive of some flexibility on the street tree requirement, to preserve visibility of the historic building and also just from I think an overall safety and visibility standpoint. But again, wanted a little more work done on the overall landscape plan with regard to the replacement trees. So there's a number of ways we could go about that. They can find some areas to include some additional plantings. We could talk about what I'll call ratio replacements of maybe some flowering trees and some shrubs to take the place of some deciduous trees. And then if there's a certain number left over, we could potentially revisit the concept of a sort of off-site planting. So there's a couple of ways we can, I think, improve the plan with some coordination, but I think where it is at this point is it may be best to just defer in general on at least the landscape requirements until we can set up a meeting with Land Concepts.
Yeah, what do you think? Absolutely.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And as for the other waivers, I don't know if we want to go into all the detail on them tonight. We're just calling for a resolution tonight for preliminary, right?
That's what we would be seeking, yes, a preliminary plan or approval, correct.
Go ahead.
So just one clarification, I forget. The new playing field, is that artificial turf or is that natural grass?
Natural grass.
Okay.
The only thing I would add or maybe ask of the board is specific to the waiver requests on sidewalks. If there's sort of, and we don't have to specifically approve or authorize them tonight, they can be deferred, but is there any sort of general commentary on the sidewalk aspect? Only because I think it's sort of a fundamental piece. They're requesting to defer construction, like we've done on some other projects where there's limited connectivity, but I think it'd probably be good for the applicant to know whether that's something the board is generally supportive of before they continue revising the plans.
What do you guys think?
I don't have a problem with eliminating the sidewalks on the other side of the street. I mean, the only thing is there's Chester Valley Chester Valley Golf Club. Nobody's there, right? And a couple houses on the other side of Swedesford, so I don't have a problem with that. How will Beechwood and Buttonwood kids get there? They have to walk under the Pico right away? If they do choose to walk. There's no sidewalk.
That's the subdivision to the south?
Yeah, in between the right-of-way and Route 30.
That's a good point.
Right. Well, the trail as it stands, as you can see at the upper right corner in the southeast there is meant to extend through the Pico right-of-way and make a connection, for which we are getting an approval from Pico just as a administrative approval, since we're not erecting any structures there underneath their power lines. But that's something that maybe the district can speak to.
Right. So that might, if it goes through the Pico right-of-way, it'll end in somebody's kind of backyard property line, right? So,
Yeah, Chuck
I mean, I'm okay
Peterson.
with that. That's fine.
Sorry.
That's good.
Hi, Chuck Peterson again from the school district. Yeah, we're pretty much 100% busing in those areas, even the houses that are close. I do notice some parents that walk their kids under the power lines now that have the yards right on the other side of theirs, but it's
All right.
very, very few, and they wouldn't have to do that if they
Sure.
didn't want to.
Okay.
While I'm here, a comment on the tree waiver. As mentioned, cutting down about 100, adding 230, so a net gain of 130. The school district's position is still that we would ask for the waiver in 100% of the additional 90 trees approximately. So above the 230, the ordinance, if you follow it verbatim based on the territory, the number of acreage and so on, would require another 90 trees above the extra 130 we're already planting. So the Planning Commission asked for a compromise at a minimum, that we get together, as Zach said, and discuss other places to plant the trees. Our position would be that if we are required to do that, we'll figure it out, but we would respectfully ask for the waiver for the other 90 trees, point blank. And there's various reasons for that. And number one, it wasn't our idea to put the trail in. We were told that's non-negotiable. And that's going to cost the school district over $100,000 to put the trail in. In addition to putting the trail in at the top of the parcel there, I think in round numbers again, that's going to require 40 trees to be cut down. So it's a little bit ironic to say you got to cut down 40 trees to put the trail in, and now you have to turn around and figure out how to plant more trees. Finally, it's hard to believe, but the maintenance on trees is atrocious. And you would not believe the leaves we just dealt with this past week. It's very difficult, and that parcel's landlocked, and we're really hurting for green space as it is for kids. We need every blade of grass we can get for the kids to play on. So we would really respectfully ask that we can have the waiver for 90 trees and not go back and compromise and come up with a way to plant additional trees. We're also looking at grant money for that trail. Our construction management company that we hired is going to try to help us secure money for that, because that was unexpected to come up with $100,000 for that. Any other help that would be available that anybody knows about, we would love to have some help on that. And then in terms of maintenance, that's never been discussed, so it would certainly be my knee-jerk reaction that we would respectfully ask we don't have to maintain that trail, but that's certainly something we need to understand as this process goes on. Thank you for your time. Any questions for me?
Thanks, Chuck. You guys have any comments?
Yeah.
I personally, when I was in school, we didn't want too many trees on the property. They tend to be dangerous for kids. You know, they climb them, limbs fall. So I'd like to have us look at that requirement very closely. I will say I'm very much in favor, and I think generally we're very much in favor of any trail connections we can make to Chester Valley. I mean, that's been a long-standing township-wide desire. So I like the trail. Whether you do it in asphalt or concrete for a sidewalk, I don't really care about that. And I think we might, at least in my opinion, we might discuss sidewalks being deferred, but I do like the trail. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I certainly like the trail, but I would have to side with the Planning Commission and our existing ordinance regarding the waiver for the 90 trees.
Why?
Because I'm just siding with their decision, the Planning Commission, and our existing ordinance.
Well, I won't be around to fight you on that, but I might be in the audience, because I think that Chuck's made a good point about if we force them to take down 40 trees and then force them to put in 90, when you don't really want trees on a school district beyond a few for shade, I don't think that makes any sense, regardless of what the ordinance says. It's my opinion.
On the trail.
It's my last meeting. I'll have my opinions.
And it's being recorded. That's right. That's right.
The last thing I forgot to mention, in the grand scheme of things, this isn't a real big dollar sign when you're building a very expensive school, but I was surprised to learn that the budget figure is $500 a tree. So another 90 trees is $45,000 for us to find a place to plant on that property. And we really, truly want to try.
I'd really like to see where you're getting trees for $500. We're doing this project with Backton Hill Park, and we are, a third of that price of what we're looking at.
That was the figure the architects gave us for a budget figure for the construction project, and of course that's part of the general construction bid and the contractor's prevailing wage and all that kind of stuff. So that's the figure we were given. Whether it's right or not, I don't know.
Yeah. And what we've got at Backton Hill is including installation and substantially less than that.
On the trail, I certainly like having a trail. I wonder was this the only route that we recommended? Was there a shorter route to get over to the houses? Because it's going to cross the Pico. We can do this in the future too, but crosses the Pico right of way. It's going to end in somebody's backyard. Is it really going to be used much having that route? I don't know.
I can chime in slightly on that. The where that trail shows as ending is not far from the Westgate residential community, so they've
Oh,
got
that far over?
yeah.
Okay.
So
All right.
they've got some. I'll call them rec facilities. I forget if it's tennis courts or what have you, but they have a small, I'll call it desire path, and some facilities back there in that corner. It won't actually dump into one of the other properties in the Beechwood neighborhood, but it'll be close enough that they could certainly pick it up. It's
Okay.
not.
I thought it ended right in the middle of Beechwood. That didn't feel right.
Yeah, it kind of goes a
But-
little to the east.
Oh, I see. Westgate might end right near their tennis courts, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. All right. That's a good route. Okay.
There was one, just to be complete, there was one additional waiver. It was a stormwater waiver, a technical waiver to have a swale slope less than 2%, and your engineer supports that. That's to collect and divert the off-site runoff. And that was the final waiver that we had asked for.
We usually go with Daryl's recommendations on things like that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. Any questions from the audience on this? Sounds like Kathleen. Come on up.
I'm not too sure how I feel about the trail. But my question to the school board, I'm an educator, been in the education business for 37 years. I'm wondering if you are proposing a playground for our 5th and 6th grade students. Katie Mark, which is the elementary.
Yeah, as I understand it, we are moving the existing playground back further than it is marked on the map there. We're going to have new play service and new playground area, but that'll still serve the K.D. Markley School. The 5-6 center will not have a playground per se, but it will have hard surface play areas and green spaces, the basketball hoops and those kinds of things, but it won't have a, quote, playground with swing sets and those kinds of things.
I ask in that, because I know what the middle school is, will there be time in their schedule to be able to utilize the grassy fields and the blacktops? Will they have recess time? Yes. Thank you. And I'm all for trees. Whether they climb them, whether they make things out of the branches, the shade of the trees, so I'm all for the.
I like shade trees, but I don't know how the school district feels about them climbing them, so it's on you. All right. Any other questions? Donna, any questions from the public? All right. We are being asked for a resolution for a preliminary approval. Okay?
I don't know how you would actually phrase this, but I would make a motion excluding the waiver for the 90 trees.
Well,
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, I think we were deferring all the waivers till final, unless the board decided they wanted to authorize the solicitor to reference the waivers in this preliminary. That was the recommendation of the planning commission, to defer all the waivers till final.
Yeah, there's enough cleanup items still, I think, that are going through. Have confidence that they'll satisfy all the comments and will resolve any of these open issues, but it probably makes sense to just defer them until we have a complete and final list.
Makes sense. Thanks for clarifying.
That's the motion?
You
Sure.
make a motion?
That's the motion as adjusted, right? That's what you just did?
Yeah.
Okay. Second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Still
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. That was the big one for tonight's meeting. All right, next up, any recent activity on property maintenance?
Okay, good evening. So, not a lot of new, there's a few notices that have gone out for abandoned vehicles. One for constructing a shed without a permit, one to clean up some trash at the green drop. And for some people,
I can't hear you.
can't hear that.
Yeah, that's good, right there.
So I had sent out some notice of violations on abandoned vehicles, a shed without a permit, and one went to the green drop at 102 Lancaster for apparently people are dropping off unwanted furniture in an old dumpster corral. Of course, they get wet and everything else, and then Green Drop doesn't really want them either. So talked to the property owner, sent him a notice out about getting the dumpster area locked up again. The gates were off, or the welds broke, I guess, and so working on that one. A couple of the continuing properties, 53 Village Drive, has been getting cleaned up. It's been a little slower than I had hoped, but it is making progress, and they are getting cleaned up there. 1322 West King, the courts have appointed a guardian ad litem. He had served an eviction notice to the daughter who was living at the house, and I guess she recently has moved out. The SPCA has come in and taken the 2 dogs out that were left, and as of today, he actually locked up the house so the daughter can't get back in, I guess, and he's working towards getting it cleaned up, so that'll be a big help in the next few weeks, I think. That's the majority of it, really, as far as property maintenance. I did, Rich, speak to Clues and Strawbridge the other day, the owner and his representative, about at least stabilizing the existing structure, the historic structure. They tell me that they believe the property has an agreement to be sold, and we'll probably be seeing a developer soon, so doesn't want to really spend the money on fixing up the house until they figure out what they're going to do. But at least get it stabilized is what I told them, so.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right,
Zoning Hearing Board.
zoning hearing board.
So we have one application for December. It is from a group SGTC LLC, which is a gymnastics facility that has an agreement on the several of the units there at that 590 Lancaster Avenue. It's in the frontage commercial zoning district. They are looking for a variance from section 200-70 to allow less than 1 parking space per 250 feet of gross floor area. This is an existing facility, existing parking. The gymnastics use is a use that would generally be in the off hours of the daytime users. So the parking would most likely be more open in the evenings and on weekends. And they'll be going to zoning hearing board this month.
Any questions on that?
No, I don't see a need to send solicitor. I think they can handle
No,
it.
certainly not. Zoning hearing board can deal that. What do you think?
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Public comment. Do we have any public comment? All right, nothing out there, no public comment. Consent agenda. I will read this and then hopefully we can just approve it all at once. Approve the meeting minutes from November 10th. Ratify the payment of bills, the amount of $652,000 and change. Accept the October 31st Treasurer's Report. Ratify the purchase of 2 Dodge Durango police vehicles plus upfit, and this is replacing 2 Dodge Chargers. Approve the purchase of a Charger, 4-door rear-wheel sedan for $28,440. Approve the purchase of the Ford Escape. I guess that's the one to replace the one we just approved to sell, right? Okay. Ratify the proposal from All Covered for managed monitoring and auto updates for civilian firewall, $5,580 a year. Approve the proposal from Paytime to automate HR management, scheduling, time, and attendance, $6,048 a year. And ratify arrow costs for adjustments to Backton Hill Park grading plan, $52.87. I understand that's saving us some money. And ratify our electricity supply agreement with Constellation New Energy for fixed price solutions for 3 years, saving us $30,000. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, it's just one question on the bills. There's a number of entries. They're very small dollars, but they're labeled tax assessment refund. Were they tax appeals or just overpayments?
There were appeals.
Really?
Yeah.
That many appeals?
Yeah.
In this market? Wow. All right. All right.
Okay, anything else? All right, can I take a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Yeah, motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
Have a second?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right. Well, folks, since it's my last meeting, before I close it out, you know I like short meetings, but I hope you will indulge me. I had some thoughts about the last 6 years and even the last 17 years that I've been working here.
We already passed public comment.
I make a motion for that.
Just kidding.
Yeah, okay. This won't take long, okay? All right. All right. When I came into office in 2016, one of my main goals was to establish an identity for East Whiteland Township, to make it a real place. We are a unique community, not like our wealthy, bucolic neighbors, Charlestown and Willistown. Nor do we have commercial centers like Paoli and Exton. And we certainly aren't Malvern, although that's what most of our residents will say when you ask where they live. Now, we're a stretch of land just beyond the end of the famous main line, where for over 100 years, heavy industry, quarries, and landfills were located. But that's changed, and it continues to change for the better. Change makes some people uncomfortable, but I urge them to look at the big picture. While we have one remaining active quarry, we have no major industrial sites left polluting our environment. 4 of the 5 big contaminated sites have been cleaned up, and the last, most challenging site is finally close to having a remedial plan. We are also this close to finalizing the purchase of 120 acres of native woodland as a preserve on the north side of the township. I had really hoped to complete that purchase during my tenure, since I brought it to the township my first month in office, but it looks like it will now close in 2022. We have begun the transformation of the western end of Route 30 with the demolition of the Malvern Meeting House and the defunct bowling alley and the removal of a very poorly run trailer park. They have been replaced with a state-of-the-art apartment building that really should bring new energy to that end of the township. We saw it last week, and it's just gorgeous. Linden Hall, which was in terrible condition, has been beautifully renovated and repurposed. And while the townhouse community that made that possible is not all that we had hoped for, the historic structure has been saved. On a smaller scale, I brokered an agreement with a local landowner to provide ongoing maintenance services to the cemetery and the ruins of the Civil War era AME Church on Backton Hill Road. With the renewed efforts of our historical commission, I believe more will be done to preserve that historic site. And the very old stone home on Church Road has similarly been restored and integrated with a new residence in that single-family development, which, by the way, I resisted being rezoned for townhouses several years back. And while the old importer barn has not yet been repurposed, I did vote to prevent its demolition. Saving these old places is extremely challenging, but should be part of our plans for the future. Now, with the opening of the turnpike ramp, it was inevitable that there would be greater interest in the Route 29 corridor. And that's not all bad. Maintaining the viability of the Great Valley Corporate Center is essential. If we're to continue to enjoy the lowest tax rates in the area, we depend on those commuters to fund the township's coffers. The future of suburban office buildings is uncertain with the COVID-induced work-from-home trend, and our area must remain competitive. Now, by far the largest portion of our budget, 43%, goes to the police, followed by codes and life safety at 21%, and public works and administration at 14% each. Providing these services are the core responsibilities of the township. I'm happy to say we have excellent teams in all those departments. During my 6 years, we have moved from a police department heavily dependent on a pool of part-time officers to a full-time staff of 23 officers and only one part-timer. This gives us the consistency and solid professionalism we need. In addition, our police force will likely achieve accreditation by the Pennsylvania Chief of Police Association this January. This designation indicates that the department has developed and the officers follow approved policies in every area of their work. And once certified, they will have to continue to live up to those expectations in order to retain their accreditation. Our Codes and Life Safety Department has performed admirably during the challenging conditions of the COVID pandemic and continues to provide excellent fire and ambulance service to the community, as well as assuring that our buildings meet all safety codes requirements. Our Public Works Department does a great job maintaining our 100 acres of parks and 117 residential streets. I can always tell when I cross over into another township, particularly after it snows. Our roads are always in better shape. And the administration staff has come a long way in implementing technology and hiring professional staff. We didn't have a planning department when I got here. It's become a highly efficient and effective group, and they're a real pleasure to work with. And finally, we rely on our solicitor, Joe McGrory, I'm sorry he's not here tonight, who I helped to bring to the township in 2016, and he has guided us through some very difficult issues. I'm sure the board will miss him when he retires, but he's already getting his replacements up to speed. And we can't forget our engineers, Arrow, McMahon, and Pannoni, who we rely on in so many ways to help us move project forward. In short, we have a lot to be proud of, which isn't to say there isn't more to be done. There is. Fortunately, the township will be in the unusual position of having a large influx of cash in 2022, allowing us to pay off debt, build a much-needed police station, and renovate this building. There should be money left over for road improvements, stormwater projects, and additional open space acquisition. The staff is preparing prioritized lists of possible projects that could be undertaken when funds become available. But I do urge the township to spend wisely, put some money aside for future needs that are not yet on our radar, as we're unlikely to be in such a flush position again. As the board takes on new challenges in the coming years, I also urge them to think big picture and not get dragged down into the minutia that eats your time, or to be misled by a few loud voices in the community. One of the most glaring changes during my tenure has been the loss of local news coverage, which provided the public with impartial reporting on school and township activities. When I started in 2016, there was a daily local reporter present at every one of these meetings, and he would often call us for additional information so he'd fully understand whatever he was reporting on. But as you know, local news has largely died here and throughout the country. The Daily Local is now run out of Reading and has no reporters covering the township. In an attempt to fill the information gap, we completely revamped our website in 2016 and 17, and we regularly post more information than ever before. But it is eclipsed by social media that spews a great deal of misinformation and strong, usually negative opinions. This generates mistrust and anger. It's a national problem, and I don't know how to fix it. But I urge everyone to try and talk to each other civilly, learn the truth, and keep an open mind. Government, especially at the local level, is the people, and the people are not of one mind on every issue. But we all want largely the same thing, to live peacefully in a safe, healthy, and prosperous community. And that's what we have in our place, East Whiteland Township. Thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you.
Let's go have some cake. What do you say? All right, meeting adjourned.